Greetings to all participants at this year's ICEEPSY 2013 in Antalya. I'm sorry I can't be there. Your lifetime honorary president has deep regret that he cannot attend. I am here in the hills of Anaheim, California. That's 8,000 miles away, about 12,000 kilometers. I got to tell you, the rooms here are much better, and they're certainly larger. Last year in Istanbul, Zafer gave me a room. The first time I tried to check in, put my key in the lock, I broke the window. Now, I'm a pretty big guy, but that room was really small. I used to be an athlete, big chest, heart summit. That's all behind me now. But I did try to lose weight, Natalie. I went on a lot of different diets and they were all failure. I finally tried the whiskey diet. I didn't lose any weight, but I lost 15 weeks. The whiskey diet didn't help me lose weight, but I noticed it took away scars and pimples and bruises and blemishes. Oh, not from me, from people I looked at. Each year at the conference, the fair asks me to greet you and say a few words about some topics. Selecting a topic is always difficult because there are so many things to think about, to talk about. This year, what's been on my mind is the thought, I wish I knew when I was a beginning teacher what I have learned over the years, and that I had paid more attention to things that really matter instead of attending to factors that didn't matter. Public education in my country, the United States, has followed a rather dismal path the last 15 years at least. The passage of No Child Left Behind in 2002 had a goal of every child a reader and a skilled math processor by the year 2014. Everybody, in other words, is going to be average or above average. Well, it's a statistical impossibility, and that's why average, in fact, in 2013 and won't be in 2014. So the focus on testing, accountability, testing, standards, more testing, it equals not very much. I hope your countries don't make the same mistake the United States has made in its public education program. Last year, during my workshop at ICEEPSY 2012, I talked about the research of John Hattie of Australia. Hattie reviewed the findings of more than 50,000 studies, which included more than 2.5 million students. And he's trying to answer the question, which factors have the greatest effect on student learning? And from his meta-analysis, he identified now, I believe, close to 200 factors. Not all that are positive, but an examination of factors that do and don't make a difference. He used effect size as the measure of improvement. Most of his measures of effect size are in the 0.2 to 0.6, 0.7. He found the average effect size was 0.4. It actually is the output of effect size is similar to correlation coefficient, although you can have effect sizes of more than one, but most of them are less than one. He found the average effect size was 0.4. So if you take a look at all the factors that he analyzed and find the average effect size of given factor, graphic I'm going to show you, there's a red vertical bar in the middle. That is representative of the average effect size that Hattie found. Each of the vertical bars represents a factor he analyzed. So you can see that you've got, like any normal distribution, the factors are bunched toward the middle, and then towards the tail of each end, they diminish. Now, Hattie's notion is simply, let's do more of the things that matter. Let's in classrooms, let's include more of the factors that are above the 0.4. Let's do less of the bottom, the factors that the effect size is less than 0.4, which coincidentally is most of what happens in classrooms, certainly in the United States, that most of what we do doesn't matter, or it matters much less than things that we could do. Now, on Hattie's list of matters that don't matter, what really doesn't matter, what really doesn't affect student achievement positively? Well, things like retention, which is one of the few factors that is, in fact, it's a negative effect size. It hurts. It doesn't help at all. There is no positive to retention. But multi-grade classrooms, or multi-age classrooms, out-of-school curricular experiences, perceptual motor training programs, ability grouping, class size, single gender or single sex education. And here's a good one, teacher knowledge of subject matter. The effect size is not even 0.1. So many of the things that we value, problem-based learning, extracurricular programs, web-based learning, all of these factors that I've just mentioned are in that bottom section of Hattie's list of factors that make a difference. That's what I mean when I say so much of what we do doesn't matter. So much of what we do in classrooms doesn't improve student achievement. Now you say, well, what does improve student achievement? What's at the top of Hattie's list? Well, you have things like instruction that's based on Piagetian principles, instruction that takes into account the developmental stages of students, feedback, which I'll talk about in a bit, teacher-student relationships. Let's take a look at these slides that I mentioned. Look at the figure that shows many of the factors Hattie analyzed. Then I'll show you two slides. You can just search online for calculating effect size, calculating standard deviation, and then plug your scores in. Two factors Hattie found as extremely important. One, teacher-student relationships, and second, feedback. Let me give you an example on feedback. I taught writing for many years, and unfortunately, most writing classes work in the United States is a student writes a paper, student turns in the paper, receives a grade, and that's the end of it. And students never learn the most valuable lesson, that writing is rewriting. But to rewrite something so that it's a better paper requires feedback. And the teacher can supply that by doing one of three things. Telling the student, one, keep doing what you're doing, which means there aren't any markings, red markings or bad markings on the paper. Or two, there are markings that tell the student, don't do that next time. Or three, the teacher can make some suggestions about what you might do differently next time. But without that feedback, how is there writing improvement? How does a student learn to write more effectively unless someone is there to guide and to point out yes, no, or try something different? It's not surprising that feedback is one of the top 10 factors that Hattie has found that results in student achievement. Well, look, this week at ICEEPSY, you're going to hear and discuss research findings. You be able to perhaps apply the findings that you hear. You'll meet colleagues from different lands and meet folks that you otherwise would never have met. Conferences have been a great enrichment for me in my professional life, first as a listener and then later as a speaker at many international conferences. while I was working as a full-time professor. I cherish many persons that I met at conferences, individuals, heroes if you please, who changed my professional life. And to some, a Frank Smith, a Ken Goodman, a Yetta Goodman, a Bill Page, a Barry Sherman, I will always owe them more than I could ever repay. At ICEEPSY 2013, I hope each of you learn new knowledge, form new and enduring relationships, and find a hero. I look forward to seeing you next year, ICEEPSY 2014.